Acoustics of Lies by Ravi Soni is a novel that mixes bildungsroman, social realism, philosophical inquiry, and political commentary. Narrated in the first person by its protagonist, Mr. Jatin Subrato Roy, it is a story of a boy's turbulent journey from a village on the banks of the river Ganges in the Indo-Gangetic plains in the northern India to the metropolitan chaos of Bangalore in southern India. The story unfolds with Jatin's timid childhood and adolescence to complex adulthood, whose life, from being a naive romantic boy going on an ethically ambiguous pursuit of desire after completing his education and enters employment. The writer presents the story in the first-person narrative to immerse the reader in Jatin's consciousness. The narrator recounts his childhood in an orthodox Brahmin family and establishes a key theme: the contradiction between the deterministic social structures in India and the individual's attempt to break free from them. An Indian child's destiny is decided almost at birth, determined by lineage and bound by expectations of the parents. Yet, the young narrator harbors a counter impulse, a belief that identity, destiny, and truth are fluid, constantly altered by time. Acoustics of Lies. The title derives from this philosophical realization that truth is a transient construct. Jatin grapples with identity crisis, academic pressures, class envy, and the silent ache of unrequited love. School becomes a battleground of ideas where he questions Gandhian ideology, not out of rebellion, but out of frustration with its institutionalization of rote learning. He is wary of moral ideals taught without social application. His envy of wealthy childhood classmate Shobit exposes how social inequality shapes emotional insecurity. Jatin yearns to be admired, to impress his sweetheart Jayanita, but instead he spirals into self-doubt. The author, Ravi Soni, captures this with psychological acuity. The river Ganges, introduced with lyrical descriptions, represents both spiritual purity and stark realism. Jatin's childhood belief in its sanctity eventually dissolves into recognition that rivers, like truths, flow according to natural laws, not divine purpose. An encounter with the mystic Baba is particularly compelling, presenting a subtle critique of religious commerce. The Baba is depicted not as a villain but as a shrewd psychologist who understands human vulnerability. A vulnerable person's hope can be monetized. Another event is the protagonist's friendship with a school gardener, Senthil, whose musings on the ephemeral beauty of a blue dahlia become a metaphor for youth and the precariousness of fleeting beauty. Senthil's sudden death shocks Jatin into recognizing the fragility of emotional revelation. One of the novel's most memorable chapters describes Jatin's visit to the countryside, where he is confronted with the cruelty embedded in everyday survival. When he travels on a horse-drawn cart, Tanga, the horse is exhausted but beaten because it has outlived its economic usefulness. Almost hearing the voice of the horse, he vows to never ride a Tanga again. This stance may be a symbolic act of moral defiance, but also underscores his inability to effect systemic change. The episode involving Aratrika, a girl from a marginalized caste, deepens the novel's engagement with social inequality. But their friendship, sustained through letters, articulates the emotional and intellectual disparity enforced by caste hierarchies. But the author skillfully shows how public ideology and personal experience collide, particularly as Jatin recognizes the necessity, despite imperfections, of affirmative action or reservations for people like Aratrika. Jamghat, a neighborhood evening debates, serves as a microcosm of Indian society where issues such as reservation, equality, and dignity are discussed, contested, albeit never resolved. The novel pivots towards a broader socio-economic criticism on the agrarian crisis, migration from villages to cities, uneven development, failures of planning, and the emergence of education as big business. These issues are interwoven in the story, revealing how policy shapes individual destiny. Acoustics of Lies is remarkable for its philosophical ambition. It reflects on truth, identity, morality, caste, capitalism, religion, and technology without losing sight of human fragility. At times, its thematic range risks fragmentation, but its emotional sincerity and intellectual curiosity keep it compelling. The novel is deeply rooted in India's socio-political landscape, yet its philosophical core is universal. Our struggle to reconcile truth, desire, and destiny. Ravi Soni offers a protagonist who is not heroic but profoundly human, brilliant yet insecure, empathetic yet complicit, idealistic yet flawed. Jatin's story captures a contemporary India where individuals are constantly negotiating between social inheritance and self-fashioned identity. The story raises a central question: is destiny shaped by passion and ambition, or manipulated by deception? In a nutshell, Acoustics of Lies is insightful, stirring, and engrossing.